Let's get started, shall we? We've got our awesome friend, Mandy McCullough, coming at you. She's going to be sharing a fast way to complete a stacked bob. And Mandy's been an educator and behind the chair for almost 2 decades. 16 of those years, she's been a Redken educator. She's been a salon owner of Salon Fix in Seattle, Washington for 10 years. And her goal on stage is to inspire each person inclusively. She's driven to help career-minded stylists live their very best life through continuing education and mentoring. And today you get to have a taste of that. So please, in the chat, welcome Mandy McCullough.
Hey, Andrew, it's so nice to see you. Hey, everybody. I'm sitting here watching where everybody's from. Chicago. There was somebody from Oregon in there, all over Pakistan, nice. I think I saw. Thank you so much, you guys, for being here. So I am so excited to be with all of you today talking about graduated bobs. And I'm just going to tell you my story with this is that there's been a lot of times when clients have brought in pictures or they want to stack a graduated bob. And I guesstimated how to get there and sometimes even cut it, dried it, then cut it again. And I have a few tips to share with you today of how to stay in really control of that end result. So you only have to cut the hair once and make sure that your client gets exactly what they want as well. So that's the goal today. Also, the other thing I want to talk about is how are we going to use our tools today? I'm going to be using, look at Sam via razor with all of you because this is a one and done look. We don't want you to have to come back in and point cut afterwards. Here's the biggest thing when we're talking about having control over your graduated bob. And to me, the challenge is always where's the weight line live versus where does the stacked or graduation start to happen? What we have to understand is head shape. So let's just look at head shape for a second. I've sectioned this out in 3 different areas for us to think about. One, we have from the nape area, right, from about the occipital down. Then we have the back and the side that's separated by the occipital and the parietal ridge. Then we have the top. Now, each one of these are really important in how they play into this look and understanding how head shape is going to affect where that graduation or layers work. And I'll just say to all of you guys, I'm going to keep using the word graduation because that's the phrase we use in Redken's principle-based design. But whenever I say graduation, I just mean layer. So you guys know we're on the same page. All right, so first of all, let's say that I want to create a graduated bob and I want to have my perimeter line clean and even all the way through, right? I want one perimeter line through. So that's what I'm going to do on this half of the head. Then I'm going to show you a variation on the other side of the head. So working through these 3 sections in this first area, I first have to determine what's my client's length. Now, this is super important because clients sometimes want a long bob. That's fine, but it will take more work to style it than if we get them to this length that I'm going to show you. If I take my hand and if I bring it down on the head shape to here, and if I, as soon as the round of the head stops and I start to bump that back up, do you guys see where I'm bumping that up? That right there is the perfect length for a perimeter for a bob that's going to make it so your client doesn't even have to do hardly anything to style it and get it to blow dry because we're using the round of the head, which is going to save them. Now, if this client wanted a longer shape, if I was going to take it all the way down to here, now your client has to, in order to get that bob rounded shape, they're going to have to work harder and get a round brush in there because they're working against the round shape and then that concave portion of the neck. So I always like to take my hand on my client's head, bring it down just until it's past the round of the head, and then I just blouse that up just a little bit and show my client that I can do this longer if they want, but if they let me take it to this length, this shape's going to last a lot longer for them, as well as it's going to be so much easier to style. So when I come through, I'm going to come in and I'm going to be mostly working with horizontal sections. I'm working with my razor. Notice how I hang on to it. My finger's really an extension of the blade. I tend to not always bring my fingers down into this. I like to work a little bit closer. So that's what I do here. Now, the density of this is pretty dense, but I'm going to take it all in one shot because you can see there's the density that I'm working with. So what I want to do is I'm going to make this work smarter, not harder for me. I'm going to come in with my blade and I'm going to give a few strokes inside the hair to start breaking up the hair and giving that interior texture. So you can see this is where I was coming in. Once I've cut some of that interior texture, now I can come in and work with my medium stroke through the base to give me my perimeter through there. And then I can comb this into shape. There we go. nice and clean and even for you. Now, here's the thing. We want this to be an even perimeter. I don't want the graduation or layers to start till I get into the middle of the head. I want this to be nice and even all the way through. But based on how the hair grows, if I take in my next section and start elevating it, then this perimeter is going to get shorter as it moves to the front. So what I'm going to do is actually come in, and this might vary based on my client's density. I'm going to take a horizontal line through the side and the back and drop this down until I feel like I see enough density on the front part of my client's head that I know this will give me a strong perimeter line. This is going to let me know how to control and keep one strong perimeter line all the way through. Once I feel like I have that, I can come clip the hair up out of the way. Now I'm going to continue my perimeter line from the back all the way up to the sides, keeping a really nice even perimeter. Coming through, here's the hair that I'm holding. I'm going to do this so you can see.
Mandy, is there any way you could bring her a little? I think you just did. I was just going to ask if you could bring her a little closer.
Yep, there we go. We'll work with that a little bit closer so you guys can see. Now I can come in and I'm going to find my guide underneath. I want to make sure that this guide drops out before I come in with my razor. As soon as I feel that guide drop out from underneath, then I can come in with my medium strip. Now on this, with this blade, I'm using the Samvia Classic blade. You know, there's 3 different types of blades. There's a classic and there's 2 different texture shears. I just want to keep it really nice and even. I'm not trying to build excess texture through the hair, so I'm using the classic blade. Now as I come through to the front, I need to make sure my body position shifts, and I'm always working in front of the section I'm cutting. So I'm going to come into my next section. I'm going to do this so you guys can see. Let's just get really nice and close. Now, here's my guide for my previous section. I want to make sure and wait till that guide drops out right there. That's how I'm going to stay even and consistent. Then I can come through and cut. Now I'm going to keep working through over to the side. Same thing. Here's my guide. Drop. Wait till it drops out. Then I'm going to come in and cut. The other thing I like to do to save myself time as I'm finishing this is I want to make sure that I'm going to come in and I'm going to comb it to the round of the head. So comb it one direction, comb it the other direction till I start seeing that really pretty shape, which is going to save me time from the blow dry as well. All right. So we've established the perimeter that we want. Now we want graduation to start. Now we want the stacking to stop. So just remember what I did was everything's one length all the way through the side as long as I have a strong perimeter. So that's how I decided how much hair to drop down to make it one length. Now we're going to start the graduation. So now I can continue to drop this side down, and I'm going to work in 2 areas. I'm going to separate this here, and I'm going to work the back first. Now elevation comes into play. And remember, elevation, the minute we lift hair out from where it lives, minute we lift, we're going to start getting graduation or layers. So I like to keep this at about a 45 degrees elevated below horizontal 90. So it's below horizontal 90 right here. And then I'm going to come in and just continue with my razor. And I'm going to turn this so you guys can watch what I'm doing. Here's my elevation. Come in and cut. Then I can move and work around the head shape. And for me, the things that makes this really quick and easy, horizontal lines of sectioning. So I'm taking these in horizontal lines of sectioning. So that means that I'm going to build a little bit of weight up in that section as I go, but it's also going to just stay really consistent throughout that shape. All right.
Mandy, Sonia's asking on very thin hair, and this cut turns kind of feathery at the ends. What is the solution for that? And then also Lisa is asking, what if the person doesn't want a razor cut? Can you achieve the same with shears? So how do we preserve density on fine hair, and what if they don't want a razor?
Awesome question. So first, let's go and talk about keeping it dense on more fine hair. The first thing I would do is probably in the same cut. One, I would, from the parietal ridge below, everything would be one length, and I wouldn't start the graduation until I got into the top and the crown. Now, also though, if I'm cutting just the perimeter length, and I want that to stay really dense and thicker, that's when I'm going to come in and cut my perimeter with my reversible blending shears. This gives a little bit of softness as if I used a razor, but not as much. So Sonia, exactly what you're asking for. This is what I would come in and do. I would come in and hold my shears this way and cut the perimeter. Then once I start elevating and putting my layers or graduation in, that's when I would switch over to a razor. If I wanted to do this with shears, of course, you totally could. Even with shears, I would tend to come in, just for the sake of having these in front of you, I'm going to use a shear. I would tend to come in and I would still point cut into the hair just to give a little bit of softness, but it's still going to give more weight to those ends because we're using a shear with a hard line versus a razor. So awesome questions, you guys. Keep them coming. That's great. I'm now going to move up into the top of the head. And because I'm doing 2 variations on either side of the head, what's going to happen is I'm just going to separate right from left by taking a line straight from center back to high point of the head and clip everything off out the way that I need. Now, head shape. This is where head shape comes into play, because think of it, if we exaggerated this shape of a head, imagine if instead of it being round, imagine if it was a block, right? Imagine if this was just a hard line like a square that goes here. So what that means is that as I work through the side, that length still keeps going vertically up. But the minute I hit the corner of the head and everything that comes on top of it, this is going to cause a really strong weight line if I continue to elevate to the same place. If my goal is to stack this or have this, my graduation or layers come up, I'm going to have to utilize elevation to help me give me that roundness of it. Otherwise, if I elevate everything to that same point, I'm going to get a really square silhouette. So understanding how head shape works is a really vital part of making this whole thing happen. So dropping everything down from the parietal ridge and above, I'm going to go from the high point of the head and section with a vertical line from high point to top of the ear. And I'm going to clip this out of the way just because I want to stay really clean with my section. Then I'm going to start in the back. Now, we've been working with horizontal lines. This is where I'm going to change it a little bit. I'm going to start working with vertical lines. So coming in vertically, let's come this way. I want you guys to see, I'm going to take vertical sections that are going to look like this. Do you see? So I have 1, 2, 3, maybe even 4 sections. But we're going to go vertically and we're going to elevate this. So again, standing right behind the section that I'm working on. And then I'm going to come in now, elevate this. Before I was elevating to 45 degrees below horizontal 90. Now I'm going to do 45 degrees above horizontal 90. Elevation is what gives us softness and a shape. So now here's my guide right here. As soon as that guide starts to drop out, I can come in and work with my shape. Here's my razor. And coming down. I'm going to do another section and then I'll show you what the silhouette's going to start looking like. So you can see how this works. Okay, so 45 degrees above horizontal 90. Wait for that guide to drop out. Then I can come in and cut. Now, I want you to see this silhouette. So now we have that perimeter line, but you can see how the graduation is softening and giving us roundness and lift in the shape. So I'm going to continue into these sections, doing the exact same thing. Making sure you guys can see what's happening. There we go. So remember, elevating above horizontal 90 to 45 degrees. I'm letting my guide drop out. Once it's all the way out, I can come in with my razor. Depending on the density is going to also help you decide how big of your stroke should be with your blade and your razor. If I have someone with fine, low density hair, I'm probably going to do a smaller stroke so it stays a little denser on the ends. When I have people who have really, really thick hair, then my stroke is going to get bigger. I want to remove more of that weight as I go. But by making sure that you're switching up your tools and you're thinking about going straight to razor versus shear, even if you work with shear when hair's wet, I bet most of you probably then point cut when it's dry just to soften it up and blend it a little bit through. But imagine if you just owned it with the razor and did that from the beginning. It's going to save you so much more time with your client. So now I'm coming from the top of the ear, still working in these vertical sections. So this will be about 3 sections I'm going to work with. So I'll have front, middle, side, exact same thing. Take the hair, elevate it exactly where we've been going. Wait until here's my guide. As soon as my guide drops out, then I can come in and cut the hair. And I have one more section to go through here. Wait till my guide drops out. There it is. Make sure you guys can see. Cut. Now, this piece right here, and principle-based design, we call these bevels, is how we identify them. And this is bevel 7 right here. Now we have to talk about natural fall versus natural wearing position. Natural fall, where gravity would dictate this hair to go, is to go straight forward. But when we're talking about in a bob shape, she's probably not going to have fringe. So this is actually her natural wearing position. So I need to pull this and over direct it to where it's going to live. So while every other section came straight out from the head shape, this one's actually going to over direct back to the previous section that I just cut. And I'll show you. There is my over direction, so that it will get a little bit longer as it moves to the front, but also she's going to be wearing this away from her face, not straight forward. So it'll actually, from an illusion standpoint, look like it's exactly even with what we want to have happen. So there's my section. So now if we look at this silhouette, she has an even perimeter all the way through, but then you can see where this graduation starts happening in her bob shape. That looks really cute. Okay, so this is version 1, and I'm just going to recap. The biggest thing was remembering, let me get this hair out of the way, remembering head shape and the value of where the hairline grows in relation to having control over your perimeter. So here, if we have to separate the head from the nape, the back with the sides, and then going to the top, if I want my perimeter to be even all the way through, I need to make sure that that perimeter line, my sectioning has to start all the way from at least about halfway up the side of the head. That's all going to get dropped for a straight line of perimeter in that with no graduation. Then my graduation can start the minute I've established that straight perimeter line. Now, let's switch up. Oh, sorry. The last thing was coming through the top. Remember, if you imagine the head as a block, everything from the parietal ridge above, if we take that to the same degree of elevation, we're going to end up with a really square shape. That might be great. I've seen a lot of really amazing square textured bob shapes that look good. But if I want to continue that line of graduation and roundness, this is where I'm going to change my elevation to 45 degrees above the horizontal 90 and continue to cut, because elevation is what gives us softness in the shape. I think that's looking so cute, even just as it kind of sits there and air dries with her wave. All right, Candace, nice undercut look also. Yeah, absolutely. I could, from the parietal ridge and below, I could just cut everything down to like with clippers and just really work on the graduation shape from the parietal ridge above and then have an undercut. I also think I saw an education platform on the calendar, Twyla is going to be on later this week, and she's doing an undercut pixie. So if you want more of that education, make sure that you stay tuned for Twyla's class coming up later this week. All right, so this side is graduated bob with one even perimeter line all the way through the base. Now let's change it up to where we're going to start our graduation in the nape and back area, so it'll get a little bit shorter as it comes to the front. Now, just to keep this clean section so we don't get confused, I'm going to clip everything out of the way over on this side. And especially when we work with a razor, you want to make sure that the saturation of hair stays even and consistent throughout your entire cut. If one part starts really wet, and then if the hair is air drying as you continue through, it's going to actually throw off the consistency. So I always like to make sure that I'm wetting the hair down frequently throughout a haircut, especially when I'm using a razor. Okay, so now we're going to come here. And just because you guys were asking about it, I am actually going to cut this perimeter with the reversible blending shears, just so you can see the difference. So if you're thinking that you have a client who has fine hair, you don't want to go in with a razor on that perimeter because it might weaken it too much. Here's how we're going to work with the reversible blender. So you can see what I love about these is how close together these teeth are. So it takes out a considerable amount of hair at a time. And as I cut, I'm actually going to come in and I'm going to open, close, open, close, open, close. So my shears are going to move back and forth to help me cut this hair off. Then as I come in, let's go through. The other important thing is I want the teeth to face the neck. So that's going to help encourage the hair to go under. Remember, the other key thing we were talking about is making sure you place your hand on the base of your client's neck and push up. You see that? There's the push up. This is the perfect length for a bob that's going to make it easy for them to style. They're going to put hardly any work in because it's working with the round of the head. The minute I start going longer with my length, I can, but now my client has to fight the concave shape of their neckline onto their shoulders. It's going to make a lot more work and the haircut's not going to last as long. So that's always one of my little negotiations we have with clients when we're trying to determine that perfect length. So coming in, finding this, blouse that up. There's where my perfect length is. Coming in with my reversible blenders, just put my comb in, and now I'm going to go back and forth until I have that length off through here. If I was in the salon, I would make sure I'm directly in front of that section, but today, so you guys can see, I'm shifting it a little bit so you can more clearly see in the camera. Coming through, I come in with my shears. There we go. And you can see close, open, shift, close, open, shift, close, open, shift, back and forth until that hair comes off. And then cut that through. And let me just get these one little baby bits off right here into my section. A couple pieces there. We'll just get that off. All right. So this now, you can, I mean, already look at it. This is one length, but look at how it's already rounding it under. It's because we designed the length off the round of the head. So it saves styling time for our client and the haircut will last longer for them. Now my graduation is going to start a little bit higher this time, but still horizontal section, still 45 degrees below horizontal 90.
This is a great question. Can you hold this section in your hand?
Can I hold this section in my hand?
So you braced it with your comb when you cut the perimeter. Can you hold that section in your hand?
You totally could hold it in your hand versus in with a comb. If I hold it in my hand, sometimes just because when I'm working with this texture shear, I like it with my comb because I can see from the top and I can watch what my shear's doing. The minute I come in, I hold it with my fingers, you can, and it'll give you a little bit more control, but I can't now see where my texture shears are cutting. So I just like to do it with the comb is stabilizing the hair so I can still watch what my shears are doing when I go through. So great question. All right, so cutting the perimeter, this time we use the reversible blenders. I'm gonna go back to my razor. Now I'm right-handed, and so whenever we work with a razor, we're up and down, but we're pushing a little bit. So hair gets just a tiny bit, little bit longer as we go. So you always wanna move the razor in the direction where you want the hair to move. So the hair, I want this to kind of move towards her face. So as right-handed, I'm always going to come here and work from the inside out. I'm working on this side with the heel versus when I worked from the inside to the right, I worked with the toe of the blade. This means I'm going to have even and consistent tension and texture with this. If I did just the toe and I did toe out, and as a right-handed person, if I came in and tried to do toe this way, you guys just hold something in front of you and try to work across your body this way. It's really awkward versus if I take my blade and make it so it faces me. So it faces me and I work with it and I change the toe, it's going to give me more consistency. So now coming in, now I want to watch my elevation. Let me turn her sideways so you can see where my elevation is. As soon as my guide drops out, there it went. You guys can see it. Then I'm going to come in and take off the length. Now we're starting this line of graduation lower on the head shape. So we're going to see that. You can already see how nice that's coming up. And then just working around the head, making sure my elevation staying consistent. As soon as that guide drops out, then I'm going to come in and work with my razor. And same thing here. Now I'll turn her a little bit more to you so you can see this from the front of this. Here, drop out. Now I'm going to come in with my blade. So here's what we're having with this shape is now, get her to the side, and let me tilt her a little bit for you. The perimeter line down in the nape sits right where we placed it based on the round of her head. Now you can see where the first interior perimeter line, we'll call it that, or where that weight line is going to build is going to be higher because we started our elevation lower on the head than when we were on this side. So that's just how do I control over where do I want this perimeter length or where do I want the weight line of graduation to start building up. From here, you guys, this is why this is so easy and fast. Horizontal sections, keep cutting from the front to the back, letting my guide drop out from underneath every time. The depth of these sections is going to depend on your client's density. If they have a lot of hair, take smaller sections. If they have not very much hair at all, you can take wider sections. Here's my elevation, 45 degrees below horizontal 90. Let me get that to where we want it to be. Good. And pull her in a little bit more. Good. Good. As soon as my guide drops, you just saw the guide drop right there, then I can come in and cut. Here, working with my body position right in front of the section I'm working on. There's my guide dropping out. And then I can come through, and this one I'll turn to you so you can watch me here, wait for my guide to drop out, and then come in and cut. Oh, she's looking cute. All right, one more section here. Drop everything down. Starting in the back. Let me turn her this way so you can watch from the front this time. Section straight down. Watch my elevation. Make sure it's staying consistent. The minute that hair drops out, then I'm going to come in and watch the size of my stroke. To me, that's about a medium stroke working through the hair. But that's what helps this shape just collapse into itself, saving me time later. I'm not going to have to do any point cutting after this is done. Come through, next section. Make sure my elevation is consistent. Wait for the guide to drop out. Cut.
Mandy, a couple questions. Karen Donato is asking if you wanted longer in the front, would you take diagonal partings on the sides?
Oh, good question. That was Karen. Is that who that was? All right, Karen, super question. Let's talk about this and let's play with that a little bit too. So if I wanted to get longer in the front, I have a couple different options. And I think, Karen, you're on the right page because you're, I think, imagining like then starting to take this back so you can blend it in with your previous section so it gets longer as it goes to the front. You absolutely could do that, but I also could, let's see, if I'm taking this with horizontal sections, I could do that vertically or I could do that on a diagonal to help me get that weight and length as I come to the front. Also, though, you know, we talk about lines of sectioning. Am I using horizontal, diagonal, or vertical lines of sectioning when I go through? Every one of those have the ability to be over-directed depending on what you want the difference to be. Think about lines of sectioning the same way you would think about if you were wearing a shirt with different types of stripes on it, right? So if I have a shirt that has horizontal stripes on it, what does it do? Makes me look wider. If I have a shirt with vertical stripes, going to make me look leaner. If I have a shirt with diagonal stripes, it's going to round out that look a little bit more. So I don't necessarily have to change my line of sectioning, Karen. Do you see here, I'm still working with horizontal sections, but do you see how now I have over direction? So my line of width is going to stay the same. If I come in and what we probably do just because it's our habit and it's really comfortable, take diagonal sections and come back through here, I could totally do that as well, but it's going to slightly change my silhouette. So let's, for the sake of what we're talking about, let me over direct this, but still stay with horizontal line of sectioning. Then as soon as I see my guide drop out, then I can come in and cut the hair. So to answer your question, Karen, you can change to diagonal, you could change to vertical, so you can over direct that, but that's going to slightly change the line of your silhouette because you're changing your line of cutting. So either way, it all works. Just know why and what's going to happen at the end. So let's do the same thing here as we're working through, just as we're talking about over direction, I can still take this hair and over direct it all the way back with my horizontal line of sectioning. I can see my guide underneath there. So once I get to that spot and my guide drops, then I can come in and cut. And now I'm still getting weight and length as it moves to the front. Oh, she looks so pretty. All right. Now we're at the parietal ridge. This is that corner that we talked about that we have to really start. How do we continue to keep elevation happening so that it helps to round it rather than square that shape out? So now I'm going to drop from above the parietal ridge, rest of this hair, and we're going to comb it into natural falling position. Get this up over here. Okay, and what we'll do, let's do it this way. We're going to play with our lines of sectioning a little bit since this has been coming up in questions. So from natural falling position, I'm going to section this the front to the back. So I'm just taking a vertical line of sectioning and I'm going to clip this out of the way. So I'm just going to focus on the back of her head right now. All right, so here's the back of the head. And I'm going to split this in half again into what we call bevels in principle-based design with Redken, just so I have more control over this. Now, working in this back bevel, I'm going to subdivide this section. So we're working from above the parietal ridge, and I'm going to start utilizing elevation. So same lines of sectioning. I'm still going to work with my horizontal lines of sectioning, but I need my elevation to be higher. So as I come through, now I want to elevate above, looking for my guide. As soon as that guide drops out, now I can come in and cut in my graduation to keep that same story going. And then I can take my second subsection. I want to make sure I have a little bit of my previous guide. Now my elevation is 45 degrees above horizontal 90. I'm looking for my guide. There you'll start seeing it dropping out. Here's my guide. Now I can come in and cut. But as we get above the parietal ridge, we need some type of elevation if we want to continue that graduation or layers happening. That's what gives us this really round shape. Versus if I come through and let's just say I kept the same line of sectioning and I held everything down from above the parietal ridge. And if I come in and find my guide and cut, now what I've done is I've created a strong weight line that the graduation underneath comes to. So do you want a strong weight line through your graduation, or do you want to continue to round over to the shape of the head? That's going to have to come into play with elevation. And then your line of section kind of alters that silhouette. Now, to make this even to my back bevel, I'm going to actually come back and elevate this so it'll continue the soft roundness. It'll be consistent through this whole shape. So I'm going to come in, take my section, elevate it. There's not going to be too much to cut off right here. There. Come in. Elevate. Let my guide drop out. And now I just have one more section. Elevate. Let my guide drop out. So now we're even and consistent with the roundness of that silhouette. So here's what that silhouette's looking like. You can see how nice and round it is based on the shape. Below the parietal ridge, everything was elevated to 45 degrees below horizontal 90. So this was our elevation. Once we hit the parietal ridge, we started elevating above horizontal 90 to 45 degrees to continue that round softness that we want to have happen so we didn't get a strong weight line through there. So just changing that up. All right, now I'm just going to come into the front and we are going to complete this. And I'm going to, remember we were talking about on the other side how when we come into this front corner bevel, would be bevel 8. I'm going to clip this out of the way because I need to probably utilize some over direction with that so that it doesn't get shorter and it works in with her natural wearing position. So here I am. Now I'm going to come in. I'll continue with my same horizontal line of sectioning. And I'll still utilize over direction, Karen, for you as well. So I'm going to bring this up, elevate this up. Now I'm also going to over direct this as well. Let's see how I can position her so you can see this a little bit better. So elevate and now over direct. So if we look at this from a top view, you can see here's my over direction right there. Oh, love the round shape. Oh, thanks you guys. I love hearing that. Good. All right, so elevation and over direction. Try to get this in the camera for you so you can really see what's happening. There we go. Find my guide, make sure I'm consistent in my over direction, and come in and cut. Come in here. I'm going to need to lower her a little bit. She's getting real high for me to reach up. Come up. Now here's my elevation. Now I need over direction to happen. Come in for over direction. And again, I'll show this to you. There we go. So here she is, and here's my over direction in that section. So it's elevation and over direction. I'll say I work for Redken and I teach cut and know why at the Redken Exchange. We just had our first live hands-on education for 4 days in New York, teaching principle-based design. And so if you guys are watching this and you want to dive deeper into like what happens if I take a horizontal line of sectioning versus vertical, how does over direction affect it if I work with diagonal lines? Those are all the things we spend 4 days on in New York at Cut and Know Why. So it's going to be a really great class. And I don't know if you guys have brought it out on your education channels yet, but the one thing we're really excited about at Redken, next year we will have our Redken Exchange in New York that we've always had. We also are really excited to announce that we will have an education facility in Los Angeles, California. So we are going to be East Coast and West Coast based next year for education. So you can check out that live hands-on education calendar at redken.com. Now I'm coming into this front section, still taking horizontal lines of sectioning. My elevation is going to stay the same. Let's see, I'm going to bring her up a little bit higher for you. Oh, there she is. I'm going to still do that, but now we're going to over direct. So I'm staying consistent with my over direction story, pulling that back, finding my guide, and then coming in and cutting the shape. And I just have one more section left. Here, elevate, over direct, find my guide, come in, and cut. So now let's look at the shape that we have on this side. So Karen, thank you. We added over direction into this haircut today. So you can see how this is getting longer as it moves forward, which is really pretty. But look at, let me get out of the way here. There we go. Well, she's fighting with me for, this is what I want. Okay. But here's what I want you to see is I want you to see this line that we're building up of graduation in her shape. Really nice and round because we continued elevation from the parietal ridge and above. If I hadn't changed my elevation from the parietal ridge above, she'd have a stronger weight line. So the really key components is this understanding head shape, nape, what happens in the back and the sides versus what happens above the parietal ridge. If elevation doesn't happen above the parietal ridge, stronger weight line, which is great. And I do that tons in the salon. If I want to continue the roundness of the shape, elevation has to continue, but it's going to go above horizontal 90. So it's going to be at 45 degrees above horizontal 90 to continue with that round shape. So that is great. Oh my gosh, Brian Benson, you've taken Cut and Know Why in New York with Mandy. You highly recommend it. That's awesome. Thank you so much. It's nice to see you, Brian. Thank you for being here today. Okay, so we have a little bit of time left. So I want to take this a little bit further. First, let me drop this other side and let's give her a little shake out. These mannequin heads have such a nice, soft, natural texture. So here's the two differences that we did. This side, one perimeter line all the way through. Oh, there we go. One perimeter line all the way through. Graduation or layers starts in the upper part of the head shape, right? Because we wanted her perimeter line to stay all really nice and strong and even. You can see that through here. The other side, we wanted the graduation to start sooner. So now you can see on this part of the head shape how that weight line started higher up and we did an even line in the nape, making sure that the length went just to the round of the head. So it's super easy to continue that round shape based on head shape and your client isn't going to have to work so hard to blow that out. So there's that. Now, let's take this a little step further. Let's talk about French bob and some fringe. So this is like a little bonus section I just wanted to throw in so we can talk about, I think fringe is really popular on bobs right now and understanding what we want to have happen and how to get there just as easily and quickly as we did with this bob shape. So now she's working in her center part. Let's get her so she's facing the camera. We're going to do some really easy, simple curtain fringe on her. And for me, what I like to do is first, I'm going to section out bevels 7 and 8. So here's what I want you guys to see. My bangs are actually in this sectioning. If I take my fingers and I go not just to the outside corner of my eyes, but I'm actually going to slide them out a little bit further till they're at my ocular bone. This is where the front corners of the head shape are. This is what we want for sectioning for fringe. From here, I can take 2 vertical lines straight up to my hairline. That's the outside corners of where her fringe is going to be. So if I'm working with my client, I'm going to go to the outside corner of her eye and rock that up. And then I'm going to isolate out and take everything else out of the way that I'm not working with. Then I'm going to do the same thing on the other side. So come over, find her outside corner of her eye. Oop, there it is. Rock it straight up. That's going to give me the other side. So let me show you what this looks like. Again, head shape plays totally into the success of getting these sections cut. Let me see how I did. Oh, pretty good. Okay. So if I take this straight down, this is going to be her perfect fringe sectioning. You can see it right there. There we go. Into her head shape. Now also notice that where I took the top of that section off, it's not back here at the high point of their head. It's actually just, and you can see it's just as the head shape starts sloping forward, where gravity would dictate that this fringe would fall forward. So it's a triangle section. And if you do this sectioning outside corner of the eyes to just where the curve of the head starts coming forward, that again, just like in the back, it's going to make it super easy for your clients to style their fringe because it follows and rounds over with the head shape. Super easy. And it's a really nice way to make sure you don't cut extra hair in the fringe when you do it. So you guys can see right here, like this is pretty much kind of that exact same section as well. And that's how I can keep my fringe even and clean every time. All right, let's get into the fringe. So what I'm going to do is, I don't know, what do you guys, do you want razor or do you want shears? What do you want? Let's see in the comments. Do you want me to cut this with razor or shears? Type it in, Let's see, what do you want to see? Wet this down. I'm first going to choose my interior length in this fringe. So I'm going to take a small piece from just above her nose underneath here, underneath the base of my triangle section. And I want this to hit at about her nose. Oh, razor, shears. Oh my gosh, even. I'll do it with both, you guys. I'll do it with both. So center piece, come in, cut my length. I will say I do like to do that with razor because it's softer when I'm building that guideline, so it doesn't give me a hard line that I have to then point cut into it later. I'm going to do one side with the razor. So now I'm going to take a center vertical line section, separating right from the front. I'm going to clip one side out of the way so it doesn't get confusing. And I'm going to take this other section. Now, elevation creates softness. The minute I elevate the hair, I'm going to get a softer result. If I came in and cut this with no elevation but changed my finger angle, it's going to be a really heavy weight line through there. I want a little bit more softness. So I'm going to elevate the hair and I'm going to elevate it until it comes back to center front. And the elevation is at about 45 degrees above horizontal 90. So 45 degrees. Then I'm going to come in and I have my guide that I can see right there. Now what I'm going to do is come in with my razor and cut that shape out. Let's see if it worked out. So now when she comes in, now we have really pretty, oh, thank goodness. I mean, look at her. She looks really cute. Really cute curtain fringe in one step. Cut your guide, 45 degrees, elevation, cut into that. Because we use the razor, it's really nice and soft. It goes right over her cheekbone, which I always think is so pretty for that look. Now, same thing, but with shears. We've already cut our guide in. Let me grab some shears out for you. I'm probably going to go with a swivel shear for this one. So this is about, I think, like a 5.5, 6-inch shear, swivel shear, essential series. And what I'm going to do is same thing. I already have my guide in. Elevate this up into center front. Make sure that my elevation is at 45 degrees above horizontal 90, so it stays really nice and consistent. There's my elevation. I have a guide from my previous section. I can see there's my guide. Now I'm going to come in and I'm going to cut, and I'm still going to point cut because I still want some softness in there. So I'm going to come in and point cut into my section, cut all of that off. And then Here we go, back to the center. Let's see how she turns out. Oh, nice. She's good there too. Now from here, I can play around with this a little bit more, but I already have the graduation and layers on either side of that head. So if I want to, I'm like, oh, maybe I want this just a tiny bit shorter in the front. Let's kind of comb that into place. I don't know, maybe it's kind of cute. Oh, she's so cute. What a nice Monday morning thing to have happen. Cute hair. Maybe just take a little tiny bit. And I like razor for this again because I want it to be a little organic. I want it to be a little bit natural. Just kind of keep shaping that in. So the key to that was finding that section, outside corner of the eyes, straight up for the width of the triangle, and then the other part of the high base of the triangle starts where the round of the head starts moving forward. Once you've identified that triangle space, then we're taking and separating right from left with a center part. Find your guide in the middle, elevate all the way up. Elevation goes to 45 degrees horizontal, and then cut and drop. It's 2 steps, and it's curtain fringe. It's that easy. All right, so let's drop this and see how we're looking. So now, and let's wet this down just a little bit. Where'd my water bottle go? There's that. Comb this into place. Get her fringe going in there. Oh, we have a couple little hanging pieces there. We'll get those out. But now as we talk about like, what are we seeing with bobs right now? I mean, I really think we're seeing fringe coming back with bobs. It's been a while since that's happened, but we're really starting to get that look. So you can see here we have, this is the side that we did the strong weight line on. And then we have this really pretty fringe to go with it. And we can kind of work on flicking that out a little bit. So it really goes in with the shape. Then over on the other side, let's wet that down just a little bit. Coming in, come that into place, work with our fringe. So she has it on the other side. And this is where we changed where we started graduation. So that weight line started higher up on her head versus this side where it started down. Oh, she's so pretty. Now from here, I can go ahead and blow dry the hair, and then I can decide, do I need to still remove weight or add texture? The beauty of using our blade, this is the Sam Villa classic blade in here. The beauty of this tool is it's going to save me from point cutting. Now, keep in mind when we're working with the shape, and I know if you guys have been in my classes before with me on Sam Villa's channels, you've heard me say this, but when I point cut or texture into this portion, right, the first 1 to maybe 3 inches of hair, I'm blending, I'm softening the outside of the perimeter. If I really want to come in and remove weight to where my client's like, oh my gosh, it feels so good, you got rid of that hair, then I need to come into the interior part and remove weight. So I can either do that with a razor, I could do it with shears. I'll show you, I tend to always go for this shear, which is the Artist Series slide cutting shear. You can see it has those rounded blades on it, so it really helps to push the hair as I go. If I come back through and I want to remove weight, now I'm going to come in and elevate the hair. I've already blended, that's done, but now I need to remove weight. I can come in from the inside and I can push, closing my shears. That rounded blade is pushing the hair out of my way to help me remove weight, giving more movement into that shape. So the biggest things, I think the takeaways from this, think about your sectioning. Where do you want? Do you want a clean, even perimeter that starts all the way at the base? You need to start your graduation higher in the head shape. If you want to have more stacked up at the nape, then you're going to start your graduation sooner in the head shape. From the parietal ridge and above, elevation's your friend. If you want to continue that soft round line, you have to elevate above horizontal 90 to get there. And then finally, just making sure what tool you're using. Save yourself time. Don't be afraid of this. Get your razor out. Brand new blade for every single client. And then Don't be afraid. Start talking to your clients. If you have clients who are like your dedicated bob clients and you need to switch it up, start having a conversation about fringe. There's a lot of amazing, great French bobs with fringe inspiration online. I also know some of our other Samvia ambassadors have had a lot of classes about French bobs and fringe, adding fringe to it. Pull those images out and talk to your clients about that so you can give them something new. And then you have a really short, fast, easy graduated bob with a few different variations. So I hope this has helped you guys out today. Any other questions that came up today, Andrew? Or are we good on all of that?
I think we hit everything. Let me just double check here. Oh, Karen had asked, can you use thinners? And I think she was talking about like that last piece there.
Yeah, removing weight. So yeah, Karen, you're full of great questions today. Just keep in mind all the options that we have available in the Samvia shears, right? Texture shears. We have a bunch of different things. Initially, when I was talking about one of the perimeter options, I was suggesting that you use the reversible blenders for those because of how close the teeth are together. You can cut the hair off faster. But if I'm going to go and do interior weight removal, like I was just showing through the mid shaft, I'm probably going to pull either my Invisalign shears or the 14 tooth point cutting shears because the teeth are a little bit farther apart. So making sure that you have the right tool to do the right job. And when weight removal comes into play, absolutely take advantage of these because they'll get you there faster, but just know what type of texture shear you're using to pull for that. So great question.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Mandy. That was a great class. And, this is such a classic shape. So having multiple ways to approach it is always very, very welcome. And as always, you're just a great teacher. You explain things so clearly. So thank you very much.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Andrew. And thank you, everybody who joined us today. Education is such an important part of this. If you missed anything, though, this will be available on the Samvia Facebook and YouTube channel. So go back and watch it again.
That's right.